Okay, Matt, we have YouTube now live and we are recording. I have 1 o'clock, so we can either wait a minute or the floor is yours.
All right, let's do this. So, everybody, welcome back. This is the October edition of the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. It was a very dry past month of September, and that's going to be our main focus in the webinar today. Focusing on how dry it was, the impacts, and then do we have decent chances for rainfall moving forward? What do the outlooks say? So we'll run over all that. See if I can change my slide here. There we go. So general information. Webinar series is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University in partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System and in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. Production delivery of this webinar reflects the contributions of many partners committed to serving the needs of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its people. This includes Jerry and all his folks at the Kentucky Climate Center there at WKU and Chip Zimmer over at the Division of Water. Our next scheduled webinar, course, the first Thursday of November, November 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1 p.m. Central. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on YouTube. We are live streaming on there. Also, if you're over on the YouTube channel, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. So anyways, just get started. We are in October now, which means harvest season has commenced here in the state of Kentucky. And I saw the Kentucky Mesnet put this picture on their Twitter, or I'm sorry, X. I still need to transition over to that new name, but put this image on X of a combine getting ready to go there at the Warren County or WKU Research Farm on September 29th. So everyone should be going pretty hard this time. How dry it's been the past month. Harvest progress is progressing at a decent rate right now. So look at our outline again, going over our recent conditions, impacts to the agricultural sector primarily, outlooks moving forward, and then we'll have a question discussion session at the end. Just look at the two images to the right. The top one, this is a view from where I sit at Kentucky football games. I monitor the weather for them. If lightning gets within 8 miles of the field, unfortunately, we have to evacuate. Luckily, that's not been the case this year, knock on wood. Hopefully it isn't the case anytime soon, but it was absolutely packed for this UK-Florida game. This was a blue-white game, half the stadium in white, half the stadium in blue. Of course, we got that little bit of orange over there in the corner, but no one wants to give props to the weather, man. It was a pretty nice day out there. We have these fair weather cumulus clouds showing up above the stadium. Sure, it was a little bit warm in the bowl. We had temperatures getting to the low 80s, but overall, a very nice day for football. Looking down at the bottom, Halloween is closing in on us. The Todd County Mesnet Station has a picture off their camera on September 25th of a nice little spider making an appearance. So you never know what you're going to see on these Mesnet cameras. I know sometimes their technicians go out and work on the stations, and sometimes they're surprised at what they see on the ground. So snakes, cows, you name it. But anyways, another picture of some wildlife from the Kentucky Mesnet. So looking back, this is a look at 7-day estimated rainfall accumulations across the state of Kentucky. Portions of the southern Pennyrile region, they were well in the bullseye of this active pattern last week, Wednesday, Thursday time period. Some folks in that area saw 2 to 3+ inches, a nice little stripe there of 3 to 4+ inches. And the rest of the state, it was a ½ inch to 1 inch plus for most everyone else. Far eastern Kentucky and the Purchase region, unfortunately, they missed out. And if you missed out on this event, it was a problem because we go back 30 days, the accumulations, they just don't change that much. Of course, you see those higher accumulations down there in the southern pennyroyal, but otherwise, looking across the state, a lot of dark blues, a lot of light blues. Light blue, a ½ inch to 1 inch of rainfall accumulations over the past 30 days. Dark blue, 1 to 2 inches. Now, October, September, November, it is our driest season of the year. October is our driest month of the year. September isn't too far behind, but it was taken to another level in 2023. The state average over the past 30 days is 1.93 inches. I took this data from our data sets at the UK Ag Weather Center. This would be over an inch and a half below normal over that time period. So a very dry month. There were some folks that went 10 days, 14 days without seeing a drop of rainfall. So I'll get to it in a second, but luckily it wasn't as warm in 2023, which helped us on the drought end. So going back 60 days, we go back into August, and August we actually saw above normal rainfall. Most across the state saw at least 4 to 6 inches over this 60-day period. That comes out to an average of about 5.42 inches across the state, which is still an inch and a half below normal. Again, most of that attributed to a dry September here in the Bluegrass State. We go back 90 days and we start seeing some of those higher accumulations that we're seeing across the Purchase area. Again, Fulton County, Graves County saw some extreme rainfall in July and August, 15 to 20 inches in those orange shades over there in Western Kentucky, some even going above 20 inches over this 3-month time period. So short term, past month's been fairly dry. You go back 3 months and it's fairly wet across portions of Western Kentucky. Otherwise, across the state averaged about 10 inches over that time span, which is about 2 inches below normal. But in agriculture, it's always about the timely rainfall. And this past month has been pretty dry. So looking at seasonal departure from normal precipitation, 30 days, most of central Kentucky is running anywhere from 1 to 3 inches below normal. Again, that southern pennyroyal region over there in Western Kentucky showing some positive departures in the 2 to 3+ inch range. But mostly looking across the state, it's been awfully dry the past 30 days. Again, 1.83 inch average in September, about 1.75 inches below normal. This would snap a stretch of 2 straight months of above normal precipitation in July and August here in the state of Kentucky. Going back 60 days, looking at the departures in the upper right-hand corner, there's still some negative departures showing up across central Kentucky in that 2 to 4 inch range, that dark yellow color. But otherwise, looking across the rest of the Commonwealth, running near normal, maybe a little bit above normal. Again, those higher totals showing up in the southern pennyroyal. And then you go back 90 days and you really see those departures go in the positive territory out in Western Kentucky, again, with those major rainfall events. I should say flooding events they saw over that way. So I was putting together the ag weather update a couple weeks ago. I released another one yesterday, but the one from a couple weeks ago, I mentioned there, if we didn't see this rainfall last week, we averaged something like an inch across the state. If we didn't see that inch of rainfall last week, we would be looking at a top 5 driest September on record here in the state of Kentucky. We did see that average of an inch last week. So we're still, I believe it was top 25 driest I'd have to look back again, but I mean, no doubt about it. It was a dry month of September, but if we did not see that rainfall at the end of the month, it would have been a totally different story in terms of these rankings. Looking at temperatures, you know, it hasn't been too bad in September. Average temperature for the month was 70.1 degrees. Most of the state ran near to slightly above normal. We did have some periods of high heat, but we also had some temperatures run well below normal. There was multiple times over the course of the month we woke up in the morning to temperatures well into the 40s. This is a look at the top 10 lowest air temperatures on the morning of September 19th from the Kentucky Mesonet. Harrison County got down to 41.5 degrees. Now, Harrison County, that's always been a notoriously cool location, low-lying location. But I mean, 40s were pretty widespread this night. So you see Meade, Mason all dropping into the low to mid 40s there. So I want to say, you know, the cooler temperatures in 2023 that will alleviate some of those drought impacts, helps those cool season grasses. Those cool season grasses were very much benefited from that rainfall we saw last week. Very much needed. But if we compare it to where we were in 2019, I've heard some comparisons. It's hard to really make a comparison at the end of the day, because in 2019, we saw our second warmest September on record. I believe we were going into October that year with high temperatures jumping into the 90s and whatnot. Back in 2019, there was quite a few livestock producers supplementing with hay. Farm ponds and creeks running low. Some were even hauling water at that time. These issues haven't necessarily been widespread in September of 2023. I haven't heard much in the way of farm ponds diminishing, creeks diminishing. I've heard bits of information from across the state, some already feeding hay, but not nearly what we were hearing in 2019. So yes, another fall, another drought here in the state of Kentucky. But if we're comparing to last year, 2019, 2016, we're in a better spot compared to those years. So looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor, the latest update was released this morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. And most of the Midwest here is experiencing some sort of abnormally dry conditions in the yellow, or drought conditions in the tan, red, orange colors there. Now, what I will say is if you go back and see what the U.S. Drought Monitor looked like at the start of September, most of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky didn't have any shades of color on this map. So all these shades of color arose from our very dry month of September. We were dry in Kentucky, but they were dry around the Ohio Valley also. I looked up some data yesterday, and the preliminary data for September shows Ohio probably saw a top 5 driest September on record. So again, it's not just us here in the Ohio Valley having problems. It's across the entire area. Portions of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Missouri. Their drought has been more long-lived. Ours has been more so short-term. If I zoom into Kentucky in itself, about currently 23% of the bluegrass state is considered in a moderate drought there in north central Kentucky. Portions of the northern bluegrass and northeastern Kentucky. The rest of the state looking all right, maybe some shades of abnormal dryness, especially over there in the Purchase area that missed out on a lot of the rainfall last week. Eastern Kentucky, you don't see quite as much in the way of yellow shades. They saw some decent rainfall earlier in the month, but again, as I was saying earlier, another dry fall at that here in the state of Kentucky. Again, Most of these drought conditions, abnormally dry conditions, have developed over the past month. Here in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, you name it, going down to Alabama, Mississippi. This is a look at the class degradations or improvement across the United States. And of course, here in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, down there east of the Mississippi River, pretty much, we're all going in the wrong direction currently. So looking at the impact on soil moisture and stream flows, the top two images are taken from USDA NASS, showing topsoil moisture in the percent short to very short category as of the last crop report this past Monday. 40% here in Kentucky in the short to very short category. Now that's actually an improvement from the previous week. Again, we had that average of 1 inch across the state, so we were sure to see some improvements, but still, I mean, 40%, that's pretty high. So not something we necessarily want to see at this time of the year or any time of the year at that, but we're looking better compared to some of those surrounding states. Ohio's at 52%, Indiana 62%. You look at some of those states up to our northwest, Iowa, Minnesota, 73% and 64% respectively. So we're not in the best shape here in Kentucky, but we're looking better just compared to some of those surrounding states around us. So subsoil moisture, same story, 41% in the short to very short category here in the state of Kentucky, but again, looking better compared to those surrounding states. Stream flows also going in the wrong direction recently. Looking at the 7-day average stream flows there in the lower left, you see a lot of green on that map, running near normal for this time of year, but there's also some shades of orange there in the northern bluegrass, north central Kentucky, showing below normal stream flows. Looking at the 28-day average stream flows, we see those orange dots. They pop up more frequently across the state of Kentucky, showing those below normal stream flows. So not really seeing much in the way of red, dark red on this map. So again, kind of goes back to US Drought Monitor. Quite a bit of the state is abnormally dry or moderate drought right now. Really no need at this point to push that drought category any higher. Now, looking at Kentucky topsoil moisture, this is from the crop report this past Monday. Currently, again, we're at about 40% in that short to very short category. That's an improvement from the past week. Looking back at where we were last year, we actually look a lot better than 2022. Back in 2022, about 60% of the state was the topsoil moisture was considered short to very short, but we're right on par with that 5-year average. Again, fall, typically our dry season here in the state of Kentucky. Moving on to severe weather, dry conditions usually means we don't have that much in the way of showers and storms, and that's reflected in this map here. A lot of those hail reports came with the storms last week. Some of the flooding reports came earlier in the month, but overall it was a pretty quiet month here in the state of Kentucky in regards to severe weather. And you know what? I'll take that. So moving on to Kentucky ag impacts, of course, harvest is going full speed right now. Corn harvested at 46%. We are running behind where we were in 2022. We are running behind that 5-year average, but I'm going to talk about it here in a second. Look at the forecast and outlooks. We'll have plenty of opportunities ahead. Soybeans harvested at 19%, just slightly below that 5-year average at this time. Crop conditions looking all right. Corn 25% fair, 53% in the good category. Of course, I've heard maybe the top end of the yields have been knocked off with the dry conditions this past month for mainly soybeans, but corn having some impact also. Pastures doing all right now, but are diminishing a little bit in quality and whatnot as we head into the latter stages of the fall season. I was talking to some producers earlier. It would have been nice to have some more rainfall in September. We'll definitely welcome some rainfall now, but as we head into later October, November, you start going into dormancy. So something to watch moving forward. Now, I did pull USDA NASS, the Kentucky Field Office came out with some statistics related to corn yields and soybean yields, at least the forecast corn and soybean yields. They're projected at 186 bushels per acre for corn and 56 bushels per acre for soybeans. Both of those would be positives, up 30 from 2022 in terms of corn, up 5 in terms of soybeans. Burley tobacco the same way, up 100 pounds compared to 2022 per acre. And then they came out with the official numbers for wheat this year, averaged 88 bushels per acre in Kentucky, which is up 8 bushels per acre from 2022. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that's a new record yield in the state of Kentucky. So some good news despite some dry conditions this past month across the state of Kentucky. Now, we do have some other issues arising on the ag front. First off, fire potential. I've heard numerous reports of fire issues, primarily before we got that rainfall last week, but this will continue to be an issue as we move forward through fall harvest. This is a look at a mower. Had a friend cutting down hay. He wouldn't let me put his name under this picture. So, anyways, his gearbox got a little hot, had just enough dry material to start a small fire. Of course, they had some fire extinguishers on hand and got it out pretty quickly. But again, I've heard numerous reports of these small fires here recently. I saw a major combine fire. I don't think it was necessarily in the state of Kentucky, but it just goes to show we've been dry here in Kentucky. They've been dry in Indiana, Ohio, you name it. Be safe, check your machinery before going out. It doesn't have to be a combine. It can be a baler, you name it. But carry a couple fire extinguishers with you. If you have a bigger operation, maybe you have a plow ready to go, maybe a water tanker, you name it. I always tell folks, play on the safe side. You never know. It doesn't take much when it's this dry to ignite a small fire. So anyways, the other main issue has been the low river levels on the Mississippi River. This is year number 2 we're encountering this issue. It's been dry across the Ohio River Valley, up into the Missouri River Valley and the upper Mississippi River Basin, and it's all contributing to lower river levels on the Mississippi. This problem for ag, I got this stat from an article I read recently, but between 2015 2019, approximately 53% of U.S. corn exports were moved by barge down the Mississippi River. So very important for the ag sector in terms of barge shipments. And this is a current look at the Mississippi River at Newbern down at Arkansas. I'm not going to try pronouncing that name because I know I'll butcher it. But anyways, they're all below low water stages. And looking at the river forecast over the next 2 weeks, they're going to continue in that slight decline. So something we don't want to see, and this is year number 2 with this problem. Now, these 2 images here, I got these today, one from NIDIS, or I should say NASA Earth Observatory over on the right, and then a look at flow contribution according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, looking first over at the right, This is a look at the Mississippi River south of Memphis. And this is what the Mississippi River looked like on satellite imagery on September 10th, 2021. Looking all right. You can see some of those sandbars showing up along the river there, but I'm going to change this image to currently. You can really see the river drying up again here in 2023. This was on September 16th. So I'll go back September 10th. Again, I'm going to change it to September 16th, 2023. So river levels are really diminishing at this time. And unfortunately, we don't have any major significant rain events on the way. Usually you need multiple weeks of extreme rainfall across the Ohio River Basin, upper Mississippi River Basin, Missouri River Basin to really get these levels to rise. And we're just not seeing that right now. Now, looking at this image over on the left, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, looking down at Natchez here, 50% of the lower Mississippi River flow comes from this Ohio River Basin. And it's contributing only 10% right now. Another 30% or so comes from the Missouri River, upper Mississippi River over here to our northwest. They're contributing much less right now. So we have problems. And it looks to continue going into the rest of October. Now, this is a look at historical low water events from the lower Mississippi River Forecast Center. Looking at the current stage, this was on October 4th, 2023. So just yesterday, Cairo, Illinois was at 8 feet. The forecast low stage is supposed to go to 5.1 feet. Now you compare that to some low water events here in previous years. 2022 got down to 4.8. We are officially going to be lower than 2012. We're going to be lower in 2000, and we're going to be close to the drought of 1988. You look at some of these other levels, 7 a.m. stage at Memphis, Tennessee, minus 9.5 feet, supposed to go to minus 11. Pretty well on par with some of these other historical low water events, and you can read through the others. We have problems again in 2023, much similar to where we were at in 2022. So you can look down here at Baton Rouge, Louisiana, forecast low stage of 3.4 feet. The lowest for 2023 has been 4.4. 2022 got down to 4.1. So problems with the Mississippi River. Hopefully that's corrected sooner rather than later. But just to be honest, this is a look at 7-day total forecast rainfall accumulations, and there's just not enough there. Up it through Illinois, Indiana, you see a 1/2 inch plus, but down here in the state of Kentucky, we're looking at a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch plus. This is mainly falling today into tomorrow. And to be honest, I was looking at some forecast models earlier. They didn't look that great. So hopefully they're wrong. And maybe we overachieve, but bottom line, there's just not enough rainfall in the forecast looking at over the next week. And then looking forward, the 6 to 10 day temperature and precipitation outlooks, near normal temperatures, but looking over at precipitation, we got near normal rainfall in there. Now, near normal, you might say, Matt, that doesn't seem too bad. We're not in those brown shades over there. Yeah, that's true. But again, we're in historically our driest time of the year. So near normal isn't exactly going to be a drought buster. So I'd rather see those light dark green shades across the state of Kentucky, but we're not seeing that right now. Now, I'll take anything we can get, no doubt about it. But we need a significant rainfall event to occur here in the state of Kentucky, and we're just not seeing it right now. Going out 8 to 14 days. This is going into the middle of October, October 12th through the 18th. expecting near normal temperatures to continue. So we're probably looking at the 60s, low 70s for highs. 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. Again, you see that near normal trend continuing. So going out for the full month of October, and there's some signs you just don't want to see. We've started off the month with below normal precipitation in place. Again, we're not getting much the next 2 days and near normal the next couple weeks. And then if we look at the entire month of as a whole, the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting below normal rainfall for the state of Kentucky and for much of the Ohio Valley. So this isn't going to help those river levels on the lower Mississippi River. So I would assume that we're still going to have some barging issues as we head through the rest of October and we go into the November months. So yeah, something we don't want to see right now. Looking at the seasonal outlook for October, November, and December, equal chances of below, near normal, or above normal rainfall over that 3-month period. Just confidence in whether it being below or above, it's just not quite there at this point. And seasonal precipitation outlook, you like to see those light shades of green, but I'm not putting a lot into the seasonal precipitation outlook right now. We'll see where, October leads us. But yeah, you on the shorter time scales, they can play a huge factor on whether our precipitation ends up below or above normal throughout the year. But going into winter, all eyes, Jerry's been talking about, Chip's been talking about, all eyes are on this strong El Nino pattern in place. Again, it has to do with sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Top picture here in the upper left shows those sea surface temperature anomalies that you can see all the red, orange shades there showing above normal temperatures. That means we are in a El Nino. Currently, it's El Nino advisory. But El Nino typically means dry conditions for the lower Ohio Valley during the winter months, and dry conditions, on top of what we've seen this fall, not something we necessarily want to see. I don't want to go through a dry fall, going into winter, turn dry, and then we go into next planting season on the dry side. But with El Nino pattern in place, that will definitely be in play. But we'll see how this evolves over the next few months. But again, our ENSO probabilities, it's 100% chance we're going to be in El Nino going into the winter of 2023, 2024. And then you see those El Nino probabilities kind of taper off just gradually as we go into the spring and early summer months next year. Now, Jerry talked about this again last month during the climate webinar, but I wanted to put this on here. Jim Noel, he's from the NWS Ohio River Forecast Center. This was part of his harvest season outlook, mainly for the state of Ohio, but it does translate to the rest of the United States. So I thought I'd push this into here now. But this is a look at the temperature anomalies and precipitation anomalies associated with a strong El Nino event across the United States. Now, during the fall months, September to November, we're running, we usually run slightly cooler during these strong El Nino events here in the state of Kentucky. But we usually run pretty dry here across the state of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio during the harvest season for these El Nino events. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So again, hopefully we turn the page here in November, or I should say October and November, and we go in the other direction. But just looking at history, it doesn't show a lot of good signs. The monthly stream flow outlook for the month of October, again, going in the wrong direction. You're seeing quite a few stream flows expected to run below normal. You do see some shades of near normal there in the Pennyroyal, West Central Kentucky, some over in Eastern Kentucky. But a problem will be, well, let me get to this first. The U.S. seasonal drought outlook has drought persisting across north central Kentucky as we head through the next few months. But problem is this fire potential. We have above normal fire potential as we head through October 2023. That extends down into Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. You may remember from the U.S. Drought Monitor, they're all experiencing some sort of or some amount of abnormally dry or drought conditions. So we're more than likely going to have issues this year. Again, if you're out harvesting, check that machinery before you go out and take some preventative measures. Something we'll be watching out in Eastern Kentucky with wildfires also. So anyways, look at the summary. It was a very dry month of September, and that's led to abnormally dry and drought conditions expanding across the state of Kentucky. Agriculture is definitely feeling the impacts, mainly in the way of that Mississippi River level starting to diminish. Again, outlooks don't point to any great news in terms of those levels increasing anytime soon. But we'll also have increased fire potential for Kentucky with another what looks to be dry month of October on the table. And looking at the El Nino Southern Oscillation doesn't paint a lot of great prospects moving forward into the winter of 2023-2024. If you remember last year, we were in a La Nina. And we went into December after a dry fall period, and we started seeing some significant rainfall that carried over into January and February of 2023. You know, fingers crossed that happens in 2024, but it's not necessarily a good bet with a strong El Nino in place. So that's what I got, folks. Our next scheduled webinar, I believe Chip goes next time on November 2nd, first Thursday of the month, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback, give us a shout at our emails there on the page. And again, if you are seeing any drought impacts, I fully recommend you use this Drought and Hydrologic Impact Reporter. Again, it helps us on our end show who's experiencing impacts across the state, who may be in a moderate drought, who may be in a severe drought, who may just be experiencing abnormally dry conditions. We can relay that information to the U.S. Drought Monitor, and in doing so, that can help Kentucky agriculture at the end of the day with potential issues we're having around here, and help in the way of money. So anyways, that's what I got. And if you have any questions, I'll open it up to questions. So I see from Shane here, the Kentucky Division of Forestry, there are several burn bans across looks like the Southern Bluegrass, Clark, Franklin, Jessamine, see Owen and Shelby on there. So it's not as numerous as the same time last year, but sign of things getting dry. So definitely a lot of truth to that statement. It's again, with those wildfires, or I shouldn't say wildfires, but machinery fires and the field fires I saw the past couple of weeks, they're definitely on the rise. So need to be careful moving forward.
Matt, I enjoyed your focus on the Mississippi River levels. I've now gotten a sense that we're in a significant drought for the Midwest, for the broader Mississippi River Valley. But you look at those numbers and they're pretty significant. And then you look at the long-term forecast with the El Nino that we have, and you have to think that there's not a whole lot of, I guess, rain in the forecast to improve those levels.
No, that's for sure. And there's definitely concern there. Of course, this all really started back last year. The area really saw two droughts there in let's see, it was early summer, and then we saw another one in fall. And the upper Mississippi has been in a long-term drought, it seems like, compared to where we've been. And it's just like you said, we don't want to see this continue into the winter months and not get the replenishment that we got last year. So I think some of these river levels, I mean, the lower river levels can be attributed to last year. So a little bit of carryover. And again, we want to be done with this. We don't want to have another year of low river levels in 2024. So.
And it's a little surprising that you don't see a below normal precip forecast for the Ohio Valley for the winter, given that it is an El Nino event. And I don't know, I guess that surprises me a little bit in that they don't have confidence to go forward with a below normal precip for us for the season.
I'd completely agree with you on that. That once I was pulling up the outlooks for this webinar, that really surprised me. So, yeah.
So Matt, you'll have to give us your U of K football forecast before you sign off. Score wise.
Score wise, I'm going glass half full. I'm going 24-21 Kentucky. Go Cats.
And any Louisville fans out there for the Notre Dame game? I would say maybe something similar, but maybe a little lower scoring.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Just one last kind of, just one last question, Matt. We hear a lot about flash droughts and how we define those. Would you say that what we've seen over the last month, at least in some areas of the state, would be classified as a flash drought?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, as I was saying earlier, most of these impacts have rose the past month. We were at the end of August, we were looking pretty good across the state of Kentucky. We just got through 2 months of above normal rainfall, and the faucet essentially shut off as we went into September. And so, yes, I would classify this as a flash drought. These fall droughts have become more common here in the state of Kentucky. Again, we had one in 2022, we had one in 2019, we had one in 2016. So it's hopefully we aren't dealing with this again in 2024, but going back to 2019, this will be the third time it's happened. So definitely becoming more frequent. And yes, a flash drought, short-term drought, but they can be just as impactful as some of those long-term droughts out there. So especially for this agricultural sector. Are you in the same boat, Jerry?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, I know, some people across the state in those drier areas, and wow, what they describe is really dry.
Yeah.
And it happened over, as you said, a very short time. Kind of crept up on them.
Yep.
Yeah, and kind of when you look at the other side of the Appalachia, they've been getting those subtropical systems and continued rainfall all along the Carolinas, and then what New York endured a week ago. It's it's our location and where we're located that it plays a significant part in it too, I believe, but
And I mean, that's a good point. I talk to a lot of farmers and producers out there, and normally this time of the year, we're looking down to the Gulf of Mexico. We're looking for some of those hurricanes to come up our way and replenish our soil moisture. But last year we didn't see any. This year, I'm looking at the NHC National Hurricane Center outlook right now. There's nothing out there currently. So, you hate to see the impacts on the Gulf Coast, but sometimes those can save agriculture up our way. But as Ron was saying, for those off the East Coast, I mean, those Appalachians, they're blocking the moisture from heading our way. So yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes these tropical systems that come in from the Gulf, honestly, whenever I see one come in, I'm always hopeful we'll see maybe a 1.5 inch rainfall from it. And sometimes, especially here up in Scott County, Georgetown, if we see anything from any of those systems, it's really hit and miss. I mean, I maybe in the last 5-6 years, I can maybe count 1 or 2 systems that, we got something from it. Other than that, it's such a tight knit rainfall system at that point when it's usually down in Tennessee. But
yeah. Now I remember, I believe it was 2012. We had that pretty severe drought. I shouldn't say pretty, it was a severe drought in place across Western Kentucky. And I believe it was the remnants of Hurricane Isaac that essentially saved the soybean crop out that way that year. So it was one of those nice, steady, soaking rainfall events, just absolutely perfect for the crop. But I'm with you. I don't recall, recent history. So.
Any other questions? Well, great. Well, thank you, Matt. This is really interesting. And thank you for pulling this together.
Oh, yeah. Love to do it.
All right. Well, hearing no more questions, I guess we'll call it a day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.